Hi, this is Mariah Gullo from The Hollywood Reporter, and Jordan Klepper is here, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mariah.
That was my Trevor Noah impersonation.
Was that?
Yeah.
It's good. Very good. Very convincing. I felt like I was back in New York.
Oh, great. All right, Jordan Klepper from The Daily Show, and you've got some exciting news.
I do. I have a new show coming up, The Opposition with Jordan Klepper, September 25th.
Amazing.
Not too bad, huh?
All right, so let's talk about The Opposition.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so okay, wait, there's a tagline. There's a tagline
Oh,
here.
yeah, what do you have? Let me see.
Not mainstream, not establishment, not helping.
Not bad. I like that. Whoever came up with that should get an 11:30 show. And the show's called The Opposition, and it's going to be a satirical late night show where I will be playing a character, and I feel like we were talking a little bit even before this about how divided the nation is. It feels like you're either us or you're them. And with The Opposition, we're going to be the them. We're going to be the alt media who is anti-mainstream, anti-facts, anti-listening. We're going to embody that and have some fun with the day-to-day chaos that we live in.
So you're going to take a deep dive into some conspiracy theories?
Let me tell you, I'm ready. I got my tinfoil hat ready. Yeah, we're gonna play around in that mindset of people who are looking for the truth behind the truth. Because it feels like that's becoming more applicable than ever.
What are some of your favorite conspiracy theories out there right now?
Oh boy, I tell you, I think Donald Trump is probably the world's most famous conspiracy theorist. And so I love that he trotted out how Ted Cruz's dad potentially killed JFK. That was a classic, and it's one that a lot of people forgot about, but luckily he brought it to the forefront. I mean, President Obama's a birther one, like that really, that got a lot of buzz. I think that was really playful. So, and the fake the moon landing is a pretty classic that you can always go back to. So
that is classic.
there's definitely BS out there that it's really fun to find.
All right, so are you going to be primarily talking to people who are kind of in this realm, or will you be talking to experts? Are you going to have special guests?
We're going to have guests. We're going to be responding to the news. A lot of people, newsmakers, politicians, authors, kind of the whole gamut. The point is not to just focus on conspiracies. The point is to sort of grab the mindset that is sort of taking hold modern media right now. And what we were watching, as many people are, the day in and day out deluge of Donald Trump, a lot of D's in that sentence, of Donald Trump's news-making machine. And you start to see how there are two sides to the way in which people cover it. You have half the country who are reading very specific news sites, the New York Times, they're watching CNN or MSNBC, and you have a whole other side of the world in the United States that are watching other news sources and getting their news sources from maybe more fringe groups. And I think what we realized was let's try to play around with what that mindset is. Let's explore that to see what are these other sources and theories people are talking about. Like when Donald Trump Jr. Basically releases a smoking gun email, it's really fun to watch those far right sites play around with and try to tell you why a smoking gun isn't that bad. And so for us, we want to take that point of view and that mindset, and we kind of want to exploit that all over America. I don't want it to sound gross, but it could get messy.
It could get all over America.
It's good, we're gonna get all over America. That's maybe another tagline. I'll write that one down.
Right on. Do you think anybody can be convinced against their conspiracy theories, or are they just so fun and outlandish that people will just hold on to them till the bitter end? Or do people ever lose interest in conspiracy theories?
I think we are pretty hardwired to hold on to our convictions. I think whether you're left or you're right, you get practice thinking in that mindset, and you're seeing new information as either something that plays into your worldview or something that's battling against it. I think it's really hard to change people's minds, and I think we're really dug in America right now, and you see that we're just constantly fighting with each other. So it's hard to break through. I think there can be fun to be had with how staunchly loyal people are to their mindset, no matter what the facts are. I think we often say we used to battle and discuss what the truth of the world was, and now we just kind of choose our own reality and live within that. And so we're sort of in a new ballpark as far as mindsets go.
So this is a good segue into Jordan Klepper Solves Guns.
Great segue.
Thanks.
Yeah. we really tag team with that one and nailed it.
How did you solve guns?
Well, some would argue I didn't solve guns. I wouldn't give them much attention, but I attempted to solve guns. First by getting rid of them, which proved to be a fool's errand.
Right. You went on a mission to try to convince people
that
they should hand over their guns.
Get rid of all of your guns. I think what I started to play around with there was sort of, there are a lot of fear tactics used by the right that say liberals are trying to grab your guns, that they're coming, they want there to be a database listing everybody's guns, and they want to grab them away from you. So I thought it was fun to play with that idea of like, maybe I am this super big liberal who wants to take your guns and get rid of them, and you shouldn't have a Second Amendment right. In doing so, I got to talk to a lot of people who had much more moderate viewpoints on it. And spoiler alert, most people have the same viewpoint on guns. You know, it gets a little bit messy on the fringe, but a lot of people want responsible people to have guns and want people who might do bad things with guns not to have those guns. Right. And I think in doing that special about the gun control issue, like what I took solace from is we're all really on the same page. Most of us are when it comes to an issue like that. What's so frustrating is when we talk about that issue, it becomes the two sides who are the farthest away who are just fighting, and it becomes this fantasy land that we talk about. You have a group like the NRA that pushes somewhat of a fantastical idea that it's only a good guy with a gun who can stop a bad guy with a gun, that Obama is coming for your weapons. Like, these are things that I don't think help the national conversation. And so what I was excited about with that special was like, let's talk to people who have more rational points of view on this. And it turns out there's a lot of them in the middle of the country.
So, what was it like to spend some time with people like Cory Booker and Blood Agent?
Good. You know, I ran the gamut from Cory Booker to Blood Agent from the Georgia Militia. It was great to talk to all of them. Like Cory Booker, I got a chance to sit down, and he was a very passionate guy when it came to the issue of gun control and gun rights. I thought he was both a very articulate, thoughtful person when it came to that issue, but he was also so passionate about small baby steps that we can do as Americans. He kind of echoed some of the things that I was just talking about, which was like, so many people believe the same things when it comes to gun control. Like, we're just looking for baby steps to try to save people's lives. This is life and death, and it shouldn't be so hard to try to work together to take a step towards progress. Blood Agent didn't necessarily have the same perspective. Blood Agent was a little bit more extreme. The Second Amendment meant so much to him and the Georgia Militia. They are out there. They do believe that America is under attack. I think they also believe that it's really fun to camp in the woods. They would articulate it that they're training for an ISIS attack. It felt a lot like they were camping in the woods. But that being said, even though we had our differences, when I would push General Blood Agent on the issues of guns, like, there were still really moderate opinions that were in there. Like, people who own guns in America don't want other people who are unsafe with guns to have them because it makes them look bad. And so I think there is an articulate conversation to be had. It's just not happening.
Have you heard any feedback from politicians or maybe people that you have that you did interview, like Blood Agent, since it's aired? Have you gotten any feedback?
I've gotten some feedback from, and the lovely internet sphere. Like, it seemed to be there were people on both sides who were excited to hear that the overall message wasn't just some lefty who wants to come for your guns, but that there was like, hey, there's a way that we can kind of take baby steps forward on the things we do agree about. That seemed to be a message that resonated with people. There were farther fringe groups. There's groups like the NRA that were less excited about that message.
Did you get feedback from the NRA?
There were videos that were online. There were they said some mean things about the special, which is fine. The world should have a conversation about these issues. I don't know if they officially watched the special. They seemed to point out the fact that I was a liberal who wanted to take away people's guns, which technically was the joke I was making there. So so
they watched the trailer.
They watched the trailer, exactly, and then they became joke stealers. So the NRA was like, "Oh, great! Oh, you're gonna be. There's joke theft in this as well. This conversation is gonna be harder to get through."
How is common sense going to play into your new show? One of the things that I love about The Daily Show is that, people laugh when they see, like, somebody with some sort of a ridiculous opinion or something that seems kind of crazy or extreme, and then they applaud when they hear somebody throw down some like a common sense or a good fact. You know, is that going to play into your new show?
I think we're going to approach everything from our gut, and we're going to go in every morning. We're going to talk about what we actually care about, what our intention, what the things we want to say are. And I think America could definitely use a good dose of common sense. I think with our show, we're going to give them a big dose of the opposite.
Crazy.
But I think the point is to show you that, like, we do these twists and turns to make sense of these opinions that we've had that we think are unchangeable because they are ours, but we're unable to wrap our head around actually attempting to evolve our ideas. And so I think, like, I'd love to show some of the follies that I think the American media and Americans in general take when it comes to news, and hopefully through showing some of the BS, we can highlight some of that common sense.
Do you think The Daily Show is to blame for kind of the some of the more humorous cable news moments of the past few years? I'm thinking specifically of like Jesse Waters going to Chinatown and trying to make a humorous video.
Well, I think
Fox News.
Yes, that's what he was trying to do, right? That was an interesting video. Jesse Waters has been around for a while, you know, appropriating his sense of humor and putting it upon other groups that may not be deserving of the kinds of jokes that he tells. I think what is interesting is The Daily Show started out, it was very clear, we are a comedy show. We approach this with an agenda, and that is to be funny. And we take our role as comedians very seriously, and we believe the things we say. We fact check the things we say, but we do approach it from a comedic sensibility. I do think it is dangerous when we look to news outlets who are attempting to approach news from an impartial sensibility, and they want to get in on the game of trying to just be joking and playful about it. I don't know if that's The Daily Show's fault that that's happening, but I do think there's a casualness that's taking over some of this news. It's becoming more entertainment than it is becoming news-based. And for me, I want my news to be dry as the driest bone that is out there. Give it to me dry. Let me have it without any of that bias. Let me turn on E to get my entertainment. Let me turn on my news channels just to get my news.
Right. And this leads to another question that I wanted to ask. A few years ago, there was the controversy of a lot of people discussing whether women can be funny. And since then, a lot of women and female-centric comedies have done really well and been commercially successful. So that controversy, I think, is kind of over.
I think that question was answered.
Yes, but I ask you this. Do you think, another marginalized minority group, do you think Republicans can be funny?
Ooh. Boy, I hope so. I think a lot of them are hilarious right now, but in a sort of gallows humor type sense.
Right.
I think to be funny, you need to understand your blind spots. I also think you need to empathize with people. And I think if you lack empathy, I think you might also lack humor. And so that doesn't have to be something that's partisan, but I do think there's a lot of people sometimes on the right who are punching down. I think you mentioned that Waters World segment. I think he was trying to be funny. I think what wasn't funny to me about it was it seemed like he was punching down and using stereotypes of, at that point, I think all sorts of people from the Asian community. I think there's Chinese stereotypes, Japanese stereotypes, and what have you. And to me, that's what I think missed the mark there, is like hopefully you have a little bit of empathy towards other human beings, and you find humor with that soul still intact. But anybody can be funny. I just think the other question is who's laughing.
Yeah. So you like newscasters who are more dry and informational and deliver the news. Who are some of your favorite newscasters?
Favorite newscasters? I will tell you, I have some Fox favorites. I think Chris Wallace at Fox is great. I think he hosted the best debate during the presidential debates, and I tune into him every week. I think he pushes people hard to get past the first line of defense, and so that's somebody I watch. I think Shep Smith on Fox is great as well. I think he's a very earnest broadcaster. I think Anderson Cooper is thoughtful. I like watching him. Every Sunday I watch Meet the Press as well, because I like to always be reintroduced to the press. So Chuck Todd is also somebody I check in on every now and then.
So you come from an improv background. I saw your clip on The Daily Show with Jack Barsky, the KGB agent.
Sure.
Former KGB agent.
Former KGB.
How much of that was improv?
So with the Daily Show piece, like that one, we go in with a series of questions that we know we want to ask, and then like any kind of an interview, then it just goes the direction in which Jack wants to take it, and which I want to take it. So kind of prepping for those field pieces, we walk into the room with a back pocket full of questions and ideas we want to explore. And then I put those aside, and you just start to play, and you just start to listen. And so improv is definitely a skill set that helps on a show like The Daily Show or any of these types of shows where you have to interact with people, because you got to listen first.
And are there any disadvantages to coming from an improv background? That's something I asked Matt Walsh as well.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Like, is there a disadvantage? I know an advantage is exactly what you said, but
I would say, I was talking about this the other day, like in the comedy world, a lot of times people are divvied up into improv people and stand-up people. A lot of times writers' rooms look like that, a mix of both. I think the advantage of an improv mindset, like improv is almost all brainstorming. You remove the idea of judgment and you build off of whatever the last idea was. And so you're not judging an idea whether it's good or bad. You're just thinking about how do I make this idea better and how do I expand upon it. I think that's a really helpful mindset when you are creating. I think stand-up comes from a point of view of editing. Like you're taking a joke and you're finding a way in which you can make it better, to get that wording more specific or shorter, to like think about the rhythm of it. I think those are two types of ways in which the mind works. I think a great writer's room, for example, has both of those. Because too much brainstorming is going to it'll get you to the moon and back, but when you're making, say, television, I think you need to put on your editing brain once you get those ideas out to figure out how do you make this more specific, make sure the intention is clear, and make sure it's as funny or as thoughtful as it can be. And then, so I think that's a challenge for improvisers to also know that you can brainstorm, but that you also have to edit. I think the flip works for stand-up comedians, where it's like, you need to have a brainstorming phase where all ideas are good ideas, and then you get into the editing phase where you can be critical. So I think it's a balance between those two worlds. I think you need them both. Right.
So improv equals more time in the writer's room. Maybe.
Improvisers just keep going. An improviser in a writer's room is great because it's like you turn on the spigot and then just the water comes out, which is great. But then you have to turn it off, and now you have a baby pool, and you need to see if any good ideas are floating there.
Right.
And so sometimes stand-up comedians are like, well, I'm not going to turn on that spigot until I have a great idea. And you're like, no, you have to turn it on. We need water. Let there be some water, but just don't let improv guy, because he'll just flood the place.
Excellent. So we have a bit of a kind of a game or a rapid-fire question round called First, Best, Last, Worst.
First, best, last,
I'm gonna
worst.
ask you some questions, okay?
Give it to me.
First acting job that made you think, I've made it.
I didn't get paid for it, but I got to do my first improv show in college, and I was a freshman, and I got to perform in front of 90 people in a sweaty basement. And I was like, I'm a freshman, and I'm doing improv, and I'm wearing a Wu-Tang shirt, and people think I'm funny. I have made this. I can retire here.
Excellent. Best story you have from The Daily Show?
Best story I have from The Daily Show? I got a lot of. I talked to Betsy McCoy, who came up with the idea of death panels back in the day, and we sat down for an interview. And before it even could get contentious, she stood up 10 minutes in, took off her microphone, walked on out to a car that she had waiting, and took off. And so, I think that gave me a little notch in my belt.
Nice. Last time you were recognized in public?
I was eating tacos last night, and just as I was showing my ignorance in tacos, somebody congratulated me on the new show, which was very kind. But I also realized I would have feigned more knowledge of fish tacos.
Okay. Worst audition experience?
I auditioned for a Gillette razor ad, and I had to take my shirt off, and I've never been the guy you want to look at when you take your shirt off, but I'm a guy who can pretend he has confidence, and so I walked in with a bunch of other like really tough male model guys, and that was not me. And I took my shirt off, and in my head I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna be great with my shirt off, but I'll be great at pretending like I can shave because I can act through this. But as soon as I took my shirt off, it became very clear that I had no idea what I was doing with my body, and I couldn't even pretend to fake shave. I just, needless to say, I was not the face or body of Gillette.
Oh, that's a shame.
It's a real shame. It's a loss.
So how does it feel to kind of be taking on the mantle of a Daily Show alumni and having your own show? You have a lot of predecessors before you. You have Sam B., John Oliver, Larry Wilmore. Who else?
Stephen Colbert.
Stephen Colbert.
Yep.
How could I forget him?
He did a show as well. Still
2
does.
shows.
He's got a couple shows going.
And you're taking his time slot.
That's right. Well, I think I don't know if I'm taking it from him. I think I'm occupying
Didn't want it anymore.
He didn't want it. No way. He wanted it elsewhere.
Yeah. So how does it feel to kind of be...
Oh man, I mean that you just listed a murderer's row of
Yeah.
comedians right there, of which I'm huge fans of all of them. So it's really humbling. Like The Daily Show was a show I was a fan of in college. I would sit down and watch Jon Stewart with my college roommates, and so to be a part of like the legacy of The Daily Show is a dream come true. And to get a chance to do my own show is such a challenge. But I couldn't be more excited.
Well, I have a collection of tweets from Murderer's Row, so
love
to
it.
speak, alumni of The Daily Show. I would like you to be able to identify them.
Great.
Based on their tweets.
Okay.
So here's the first one.
All right.
I've never drunk champagne from the Stanley Cup, but I once sucked nacho cheese off a participation ribbon.
Ooh, that sounds like... Is that Stephen Colbert?
Yep.
Nailed it.
Got it.
Okay, 1 for 1.
Good job.
All right.
Did Obama say the peaceful transfer of power? Nice Trump burn.
Did Obama say the peaceful transfer of power? Nice Trump burn. That feels like Sam.
Sam B. Larry.
Oh, Larry.
Wilmore.
Oh, Larry loves the pea humor. Okay, I should have known. I should have known.
All right, here's one. Sending Trudeau to stand attractively next to Trump while speaking French is actually the closest thing Canada has to saying, fuck you.
That feels like Sam.
That is Sam.
That is Sam.
You got it.
Yeah.
All right. New York sidewalk saying, find a penny, pick it up. All day long, you'll have hepatitis.
That feels like Oliver.
You're right.
There we go.
John
Okay.
Oliver.
Uh-huh.
All right, last one. I wish there was a Shazam for smells.
Well, is that Trevor?
It's Trevor.
That is Trevor. There we go.
Good job.
Yes.
Good job.
He talks about that all the time. Just around the office. What does that smell? What does that smell? What does that
I
smell?
wish there was a Shazam for smells. Jordan Klepper, thank you so much for being with us today.
Ryan, thank you for having me.
The new show is The Opposition. It's out September 25th, right after The Daily Show on Comedy Central.
Indeed. 11:30.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.